Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. Wow. Talking about a bunch of news coming out all tonight when we have election night. And I know a lot of y'all are probably watching the election, so I'm not expecting a ton of views. But you know what? It's going to be a while till we know the results anyway. So why not have a little fun here and take a look at all the news for Tennessee? And there's a bunch of it. You start out with the fact that we're going to talk about the college football playoff. They just came out with their rankings. We'll go over that in a minute. But first thing I want to go over is that we just got a commitment from Vysen. He is a 4-star offensive lineman, according to Rivals. And he has committed. He chose the Vols over LSU, Auburn, and Texas. And this is a nice get for the Vols. This guy's big. He's a great big guy. I mean, 6'5", well over 300 pounds. And when you see the highlights I'm going to show you, you'll see how big he looks. He's way bigger than every other player. And we're also going to go over college football playoff, the position we're in, which I think is really good. I could not be more pleased. It could have been a slightly better, but I'm fine with where we are at. I think everything's going to work out just fine. And yet it says Tennessee, this just happened at little after 6 o'clock. Vysen committed to the Vols. He's an offensive lineman. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. He's huge. He's had one of the quieter recruitments, they said, but he did choose the Vols, and he had 3 crystal balls predicted in our favor. So this is not a shock. And here you see he just committed. Everybody pretty much thought he was going to Tennessee, and he did. He's a 5.8, a 4-star on Rivals. A couple other places have him as a 3-star. I'm going to show you those highlights, and you'll see that this guy's a difference maker. He's kind of a leadership type guy. He prides himself on it, and a good student. So I think this guy's going to fit in real nice into the schemes that Josh Heupel puts out there. And look, like, as I've said, offensive linemen are not just blocking the guy in front of them. They've got tons of responsibilities, and it takes somebody who's willing to educate themselves and willing to get in really good shape, because we move fast. As you know, other than the Georgia game, we typically move really fast, and you've got to be in big and in shape. And here we'll take a look at Vysen right here. Look how much bigger he is than everybody, and it's just, you know, he's not going to have too much trouble pushing some people around. Here he is right here. Yeah. And I'm just going to pancake you. Here he is. I mean, look at the size of this guy. Yeah. I mean, that's where you belong, on the ground. And here he goes again. I mean, he just pancakes you. You can see why so many people wanted him. And, you know, the likes of LSU and Texas and Auburn, it makes a lot of sense, because you can see he's got a lot to work with as he just pushes this guy. Yeah, you'll go over here off the field. That's where I want you. So I think this is a really nice get for the Vols. And the reason I think this is important is we only had 2 offensive linemen in this class, and it's really looking like a really nice class. It's around top 10 right now. Let's take a look at it. And, of course, it starts out with the most important player, which is Nico, you know, basically the highest-rated quarterback in the country. I think he's the #1 because of what we need. We've got tons of edge rushers who this guy's basically a 5-star, depending on the ranking. Caleb Herring, #1 player in the state of Tennessee. Cam Seldon's going to be phenomenal. And all down the line, there's so many good players. But we only had 2 of these offensive linemen. And here you see Vysen. And like I said, some places have him as a high 3-star, and Rivals has him as a 4-star. But he is an absolute monster. 6'5", 330 pounds. I mean, he's big. And I look for Vols rankings to increase. I think it's going to be hard to really rank this class, even though I think it's really good, because we're going to have transfers out of the portal that'll be coming to us. Probably 2 or 3 guys would be my guess, because we're pretty much the hottest team out there, other than, I guess, Georgia. And I think we're going to do really well. I think there's a lot of players that are going to want to play for the Vols, and we'll probably transfer from places where their coaches are being fired. You know, Auburn's already lost their coach. There's going to be many others getting fired. And there's just going to be a lot of movement all across the country. So now let's take a look at this college football playoff ranking. And Georgia's #1, which doesn't surprise us. TCU climbed in the top 4. And here you see LSU's #7. Oregon is #6. And they've got a problem in that Georgia beat them by over 40 points.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
And I don't know how they're going to work around that. You know, if they wind up with 1 loss, it's going to be really tough to put them in front of the Vols when the Vols lost by 2 touchdowns to Georgia, and then they lost by 40 points on a neutral site. They were in Atlanta. And understand, their crowd had the opportunity to buy half those tickets. We had the opportunity to buy a few thousand at Sanford Stadium. So had we played in Atlanta, we would have had half those tickets. So if they didn't make it a neutral site, that's their fault. But they got beat by over 40. They got the worst beat down ever. And we lost by 2 touchdowns. And when it's all said and done, they're going to have to look at that. But here you see Tennessee at number 5, and that's a really good spot to be because, remember, Michigan and Ohio State are going to have to play. And one of those is going to take a loss. And I don't think TCU is going to stay undefeated. They are a very modest team. They've been very fortunate to stay undefeated. They've had to come back in almost every game, and they got to play Texas at Texas, and they got to play Baylor. And I don't think they're that good. I think they'll probably lose, and this will be a non-issue. And we'll move up a couple of spots and probably end up – I'd like to see us end up 3rd in this, but, you know, you take the spots you can get in the playoff. Georgia's obviously the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State, like I said, they're going to play Michigan, and we'll find out about them. But they've been kind of – sometimes they look really good and sometimes not so much. Michigan has had the weakest schedule imaginable. They've played just the worst non-conference schedule possible. So they're going to have to beat Ohio State to get in. And then LSU, they're creaked. We creaked them with that loss down at Death Valley. I don't see any way they get in, even if they win the championship, which I don't see them winning the SEC title. I don't see them beating Georgia. It's just probably not going to happen. And then Alabama's got 2 losses and a loss to us, so they're pretty much done. And that's not sitting well with Alabama people, I can tell you.
Nothing to see here. Please disperse. Nothing to see here. Please.
Now, look, there's always some risk when you're dealing with this type of thing, when you're, you know, it's basically people voting the college football playoff system, and they're going to take it conference championships into account and all this. So we're going to need a little bit of havoc, but that's pretty typical in the last few weeks because we play most of our tough games in the front of the season or in the middle, whereas most teams do it at the end. And I will find it hard to believe that there won't be some chaos, and we'll end up probably 3rd or 4th in the playoff system as long as we win out. We've got to beat Mizzou. We need to beat them, South Carolina, and Vandy, and we need to beat them convincingly because now style points really count. You know, if you're undefeated, it doesn't matter, but, you know, when you've got a loss on your hands, even though it's to number 1 Georgia at their house, and you have 2 top 10 wins, which are really good ones, Alabama and LSU, which nobody else has, you still got to deal with the risk.
Risk is our business.
And that's right. Risk is our business right now. So we just need to take care of business. And if the national media tries to creak us and ESPN and the college football playoff, you know, look, there is a lot of power, you know, that we don't know about that could try to creak us.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
But look, we just need to focus on winning. Win the last 3 games, and I think we'll be fine, especially if we win them the way we've been winning every other game, convincingly. And look, the last 3 games, as far as rankings are concerned, we're going to be favored by a lot of points in every game. And the only one that's away is South Carolina, and they're pretty beatable. So I feel good about the college football playoff situation. I feel good about getting that offensive lineman for UT for the 2023 class. I hope you got out and voted. I know I did. There's my little sticker. Anyway, hope you like the content. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I've only been doing this a few months. I can use some subscribers. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.